Hi, and welcome to the introductory episode of Being Right Isn't Wrong Think with Steph and Kat. This is a new segment of the People's Conversation covering a variety of topics from the mainly conservative female perspective. So we encourage you to grab your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, sit back, and follow along. So today's topic is the demasculinization of biological males. Probably an interesting topic for two women to discuss. However, we've seen the negative impact that this has had on parenting, relationships between men and women, and even on dating. We started to ask why. Why is this happening? And we did a little digging. This is a topic that's received some internet and mainstream media attention and coverage, but it's still something that has a lot of impact on society and really needs further attention. Since World War II, biological men have gone from the traditional manly men, as we've seen in the series Mad Men, to the current depiction of what is male, or what is considered currently to be male. In some cases, this is a lace-laden, cat-walking, makeup-wearing, oversensitive, feminized version of what was once considered male. There are still many manly men out there, we know there is, but they are increasingly what seems to be rare and targeted with phrases such as toxic masculinity, misogyny or misogynists, the patriarchy or the patriarchs, and to some extent even privileged rapists. How does the current 21st century male compete in an era of Me Too and assumed guilty before being presumed innocent? How does this undercurrent affect younger males or the younger generation of males growing up? In Canada, we have the Bill C-71, which is an attempt to disarm all Canadians, male and female, and confiscate firearms. Firearms, the traditional tool associated with men. We also have Bill S-202, which will prevent medical professionals from dissuading gender dysphoric teens from undergoing irreversible and psychologically damaging hormone treatments and surgeries. Why do so many men or males want to become women now? And why do so many young females want to become boys?
I think there's a disproportion of there's more men wanting to become females than women wanting to become boys, from what I see.
Mm-hmm.
I think because they're taught now, and like they're guilty by being born male, they're bad being born male. The school systems have been taking away everything to help boys do well, like such as recess, like they don't even have swing sets now. They have quiet spaces under trees. Mm-hmm. Like, what a joke. And then that's why like the boys are now dropping in the educational system, and girls are achieving more. I think girls get praised more for things, and boys are sternly told not to do stuff because socially everything's wrong. Everything they do is wrong now.
Yeah.
Right? They can't. I think like 10 years ago, this wouldn't have been happening. Like, this is nonsense. Like, I don't know this is a clown world. But there's shows on TV, I'm Jazz. Mm-hmm. Right? So they've glorified this little boy that publicly transitioned to a girl, and they've had her gender reassignment surgery on TV for the world to see.
Yeah, it's broadcast, yeah.
And I think this all started with Bruce Jenner. Mm-hmm. Right? Bruce Jenner came out, and it's getting more attention. I haven't seen any attention on girls becoming boys.
No, it's one you don't really see too much about the female to male transition. No.
Like the drag stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's no drag men. There's no drag kings. I don't see drag kings being glorified.
I think there are those that are out there, but yeah, we prolifically see more of the males doing the drag shows. Like on Netflix, we have RuPaul's Drag Race, which, you know, shows males competing in female personas, a lot of makeup and female clothing, etc., and really glorifying that, or just, you know, highlighting it because it's competition.
Well, but they're doing this with they're starting it as kids now because CBC has a program, wonderful CBC, they need to be defunded, has drag kids.
Yeah.
Glorifying that. And I think that the whole world saw that Desmond the Amazing talking about ketamine on, right? So that poor child has been dragged around just for the parents to, you know, look how woke we are.
So what you're basically saying is that we have a lot of current mainstream entertainment that's really emphasizing males taking on another personality, a female personality. Yeah. So it's gone from being something that used to be sought in the nightclubs, and now it's becoming in your face all the time on TV. So there's a lot of male YouTubers out there that have makeup channels, and they are followed predominantly by women. So they will review various products. They are supported by large chain stores or large chain retailers. And some of them have their own makeup lines and the like. So they are there with, you know, thousands or even millions of viewers putting on makeup. So, I mean, you know, as a child of the 80s, we saw a lot of the rock bands, glam rock.
Yeah, guys with long hair.
Long hair, makeup, you know, they wore eyeliner. So, you know, it was, at the time, it was a little shocking, but at the time you also looked at it, well, that's just their personality, or that's their stage presence.
Well, in the 80s, they weren't changing their genders, right?
70s into 80s were the era of the androgynous singers. So you have singers like Bowie and even Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics, who were very asexual looking, or more either on the more feminine scale or on the more masculine scale. So that was starting to be a very maybe subversive or
trendy.
Yeah, you know, a trendy type of method of appealing to youth or whatever. But it was, you know, experimental glam rock that made them famous. And I believe now you've got this trend now, at least with gender dysphoria happening, where you now have they've taken the glam rock trend into something a lot more serious. So you have kids that are expressing themselves as, you know, the opposite sex, and you have medical community now that is supporting these transitions with not a lot of research into the long-term impacts and negative impacts. So we have men no longer feeling comfortable in their manly bodies, in their male bodies, for whatever reason. You know, we have science that's looking into why are male testosterone levels dropping? Why are sperm levels dropping?
Because, well, soy. I know that anybody can look on Google, and the majority of the articles now will strongly support. No, soy does not drop testosterone levels, but that's because they're adding soy to everything, and they're trying to make everybody a vegetarian, which most vegetarian foods have soy. There's estrogen in the air, there's estrogen in the foods. Boys eating this, it's going to affect them, and I don't know if it affects their psyche or if that's more like the way they think. I'm not quite sure. I don't think there's any science to say that says either whether the intake of soy of males, they'll start thinking like women or thinking more femininely.
So we can discuss a little bit about the science. I know in my own research looking into this topic, I came across articles dating back into the 90s discussing environmental estrogens or anti-androgens or androgens that are being found in water supply. Various studies from the UK to the US have pointed out that these natural estrogens, so these are not estrogens produced in the body, these are estrogens that are leaking out from things like plastics that are disposed of in or near bodies of water. Also, you have the hormones that are being secreted by people into the wastewater supply, which eventually works its way into the water supply. One study that I found in the 90s was an examination of alligators in Florida, where biologists were noticing that in certain bodies of water with high levels of these natural estrogens, male alligators were being born with smaller penises, and there was actually less males being born. So if you have a clutch of eggs, more females would be hatching as opposed to males. And we have studies even in salmon and herring gulls around the Great Lakes, which we know the Great Lakes are pretty polluted. And we have male herring gulls with oviducts, which is unusual, and salmon that are born as well with feminized or female reproductive systems. So if we have biology indicating to us that these natural estrogens are affecting wildlife, what does that really mean for the humans that are drinking the same water, eating some of these animal products? That's got to have an impact. So we have a physical impact on biological men. We have studies that are showing, even in the UK, water quality studies in the Thames River around sewage outlets showing high levels of estrogen. And scientists are linking this to low testosterone levels in men, and this is 50 years ago, and lower semen counts. So, we have now men being physiologically attacked by natural estrogens. And this is not even considering as well that these estrogens are having a negative and damaging impact on females too.
Even the suicide rates for young adolescent boys and young men have significantly increased. Their depression rates have increased. They have all of these quack doctors and quack scientists pointing to how bad everything male is now. And yet the world around us, they've created a mass eradication of men because, these soy boys, they're not going to have kids. There was a study I read that they took young men from the ages of 22 to 26 and tested their testosterone levels against old men in their 80s, and the old men in their 80s had higher testosterone level than young men today. So that's really concerning. Nobody looks at their food labels. Nobody pays attention to anything, and this, the system's set up to fail young boys these days. Everything from the school to society to our feminist woke government, with Catherine McKenna saying that male construction workers, they're rapists and making the community unsafe.
So some would agree that this is justified, that men deserve what they're getting, that the age of the patriarch is over and it's time for women to rise up. And I look at this as highly imbalanced. Men and women both equally have a lot of value to share. Painting one as negative, as criminals or whatever, regardless of crime statistics, is really giving a lot of men, good men, a really bad rap. I don't feel that they deserve that. We have currently we do have higher levels of men being incarcerated. But the interesting thing now is that in Canada, we have men that can identify or self-identify as females being arrested, and the police only record their gender as what they identify as. So they will not have accurate statistics on crimes perpetuated against women. So now it's starting to look like we have women on women crimes. We have this skewed data coming up. It's not giving a fair assessment of what's going on. So, how does that problem get addressed? It obviously doesn't. And we have indications that there are articles coming out that are stating that women on women crime is going up when actually it is still male on female crime going up.
Yeah, well, I even saw an article on Twitter, actually. I guess this a woke feminist posted it. It was about violence against women is still on the rise. But it was a lesbian woman that looked like a man that was beating her girlfriend. So that she was trying to state that because it's been men always beating women. I think everything's skewed, and we have a culture where we have more victims, and everybody wants to identify as something or fit into a group.
You made a good point. Everybody wants to be victims. You think that's happening then with a lot of these guys that are, as you said, becoming soy boys? Are they hitching on to the victimization train?
Yes, and I think these are the ones that would test lower on testosterone. And I think it's more city centers like Toronto would have the majority of young men, I don't know, mid-30s down, as soy boys, where if you were to go out into the country or up north, men are still men, right?
It almost seems like some men are feeling guilty about their masculinity.
Do you think they feel guilty, or they're being pushed up against a wall to feel guilty, to fit in?
Or as a method of self-protection. You have men feeling that whatever they do is a threat against women. And if they step out of line, their career is over, their personal life is over. In some cases with Me Too, they could go to jail. There was the incident a few years ago where a U.S. college student accused, I think it was around 5 football players of raping her. And immediately the media got on the bandwagon and was crucifying these young men who eventually turned out in court that they were innocent, that this woman had made the story up. But by that time, a couple of the boys had lost scholarships. Their lives are essentially over, even though they were exonerated of the crime. And I don't recall immediately if that young woman received any punishment in her case. I don't think so. However, we have now these young men destroyed. Why? Because somebody made up a story. We're being told women are always right. You have the Kavanaugh case right now, last year, where women came forward saying that 20, 30 years ago, he raped them at a party. No evidence. But again, media was saying, yep, these women have to be believed. Ultimately, it turned out it was a whole fabricated story. So how can guys compete with that? How can guys go on a date, get into a relationship with a woman when it's potentially viewed that this woman can turn around and say, oh, he raped me, or he assaulted me with no evidence, but the court of public opinion says she's right, he's guilty. So from a dating perspective, how do you, as somebody who's in the current 21st century dating scope, what do you see when you go on dates with guys? Do you think that this is in the back of their mind when they agree to go on a date? And have you noticed even a difference in behavior on being on a date now as opposed to even 10 years ago?
I know there's a big difference. Men, I don't even think they're men anymore. What's left out there, none of them are the same type. Like, they're all within the same age group as me. So, which is very funny because I would think 10 years ago, they would have been more stepping up like a man than what they are now.
So when you say stepping up as a man, what do you mean by that?
I don't know, taking the lead.
So you mean like taking the traditional role of asking you out, paying for the date if he's the one asking you out, picking you up, that type of thing?
Yeah, there's that whole tradition seems to be lost. I'm just thinking stepping up, and because all men ultimately are looking for sex, and you would think that they would want to step up to be in a relationship with somebody where they would just get a whole lot more sex than just trying to beg for it on online dating sites and stuff like that. It's very bizarre to me. Like men don't step up. They don't seem to want responsibility anymore. There's more men living at home in their mom's basement, like at my age, really? Like,
well, some would argue that it's really expensive out there right now, and living at home in mom's basement is actually cheaper.
Well,
but,
yeah,
but it does show that attempt at independence.
Well, they would have had attempt as much as I did. So why, they should, if they're in their late 30s, they should have accomplished a little bit more in life to be able to not live in mom's basement.
So normally most men would find a way to have that independence, have the pride in the accomplishment.
It's the pride, and I don't think men have pride. I'm just going by what I see with single men. I'm not talking about married men or men in committed relationships. They don't have pride anymore. Or I don't even know if they know what pride is. Like, they take more pride in their clothing, or I never expected to be single at this point in my life, but very weird. I didn't expect the bottom feeders, to say the least. Like, it's just a very pathetic group of men that are
lost boys.
Boys, yeah, boys.
So, what are you looking for in a guy?
Oh,
in this day and age,
a Viking.
Interesting that you would say Viking, because that would be the epitome of a strong man, no holds barred, take charge. I'm going to protect what's mine. I'm going to challenge whoever challenges me for what's mine.
I want someone, if a bear's trying to kill me, to save me from the bear, not run away and hide behind me and put his capri pants on and fix his hair. No, but it's really, I want to start a campaign, bring back the male toxic masculinity, bring it back, the state of men. And it's not, I know they try to blame it on women wanting careers and whatnot, but no, it also has to do with men.
So you're even indicating that there's problems with even trying to establish a relationship with men, trying to meet them on an even playing field during the date. Like, there just seems to be a lack or a weakness in trying to develop intimate relationships. And I'm not talking about just sex. I'm talking about getting to know one another.
Yeah.
And I look at even the proliferation of porn right now online. Well, even, you turn on Netflix and everybody's humping everybody else. You have teens involved in very adult situations where adults are either not available, not around, or, they look like inept pieces of walking meat suits, basically. And these kids are deciding that they're the adults, and they're just going to do whatever in the hell they want to do. So you don't really have any focus on establishing relationships now. You just have people hooking up, and it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and game's over, and bye. You don't have an attempt even to get to know one another. And I'm wondering, is this because of Me Too? Is this because of...
I think that men are going to do it, and not... They're not going to put any effort into somebody. They're not going to feel they have to, because if they can, they're getting away with it. If I don't want to deal with it, and I don't want to talk to somebody like one of these, low class soy boys, they're going to move on to somebody else. Right. So if women stop lowering their expectations, if women start having some self-respect, men are going to have to step up and start acting like men again, pursuing women and acting like men, right? So a lot of this has to do with women allowing it.
So let's go back to Me Too and even the parental rights of fathers. So, you bring up the thing about the lack of responsibility in men needing men. So if we look at statistics, we have a lot more families that don't have a male parent role. So we have a lot of single moms, and, I give a whole lot of credit to single parents raising one or more children because, even raising a child with two parents can be really challenging. But, kids do need the influence of male and female in the family. They need that stability. Girls need the influence of a father, and boys need the influence of mother, and, vice versa. So we have lack of male involvement in the home. And there's some belief that this lack of male role models starting in the home has led to the proliferation of crime. We have, more men incarcerated, and a lot of these men grew up in single parent households. So, that has a factor. But we also have things like the laws against them. We have, I mentioned Me Too, so I'm going to mention that again, where Me Too started as a movement to allow victims, female victims of sexual violence, to come forward in a quote-unquote safe space. However, now we have this being used as a blatant attack against men, that women are using this to just get their way, and the law seems to be on their side.
Yes, I think they're attention seekers.
But the attention seekers go unpunished for ruining a man's life, and we have the law that's actually supporting this. Even with the Kavanaugh incident in the U.S., the woman who accused Kavanaugh and caused the stir in the investigations, she just went into hiding. There was, from what I understand, no repercussions against her. And, it was allowed to happen. So, again, I ask things like how do men compete with this?
I think there has to be more women on the right standing up for, let's get back to normal. Because it's women, and I don't know if women have created the problem, but it's women that are going to have to fix it. We're going to have to take a stand and say enough is enough. So mothers raising boys, start bringing back take it like a man. and treating them like boys, like letting them wrestle and have BB guns and just, teach them responsibility, but let them be boys. Don't encourage I don't know why parents, single mother parents, I don't know, maybe it's not just single mother parents, but they're giving their young boy children Barbies and trucks, right? And I don't know why. I wouldn't say a tomboy. I was doing catching frogs and shooting things with BB guns when I was a kid, but didn't make me want to be a boy. Doesn't suggest I am a boy, right? So I don't know why they're mothers are setting their children up to fail, or boys to fail.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a mother of a son, I know when he was born, having never grown up with brothers, and my dad was the traditional 9-to-5 working dad. I didn't really have a whole lot of other male influences in my life. So when my son was born, I remember looking at him and thinking, okay, what the hell am I supposed to do with this now? How am I going to raise a son? And I was even thinking down further about potty training. I know how to potty train a girl. How do I do this with a boy? And thank goodness I have a husband who has been very interactive and present with helping raise my son, because I was really worried. How do I, as a woman, identify what a man needs, or a boy growing into a man, wanting him to be balanced, wanting him to be respectful of males and females, but also wanting to ensure that his male identity, his male character was supported and also encouraged. Just because I felt that this is, who he is, and who am I as a mom to raise him gender neutrally.
But you identified that their males and females are different. They're biologically different. They're different. They're just different. Males think differently. They like certain things. They like certain colors. They like certain foods even over what females like. There's always going to be differences. You recognize that. I think that the mothers that are trying to gender neutralize their kids, or even get their sons to turn into girls, those mothers are the victims, because they're trying to fit in with some crowd and be, because there's all, they go online and they get applauded for pushing their son to be a girl.
Well, they're pushing shame. And that was one of the things with my own son, was that I did not want him to be shamed of being male. I wanted him to be proud of being male, just as much as I wanted my daughter to be proud of her femininity and being female. This shame and victimization was not a path I wanted either of my children to be raised under. And, I was supporting them in what they were, in their identity, I shouldn't say their identity, in their sex. Because one was male, one was female. And they were darn well going to be proud of who they are, loving who they are, and supported. And, I do see as a parent, you hear more and more cases of even local area high schools where you have so many young girls self-identifying as boys. And you have a lot of young boys self-identifying girls. 10 years ago, you never would have heard of this. It's like we are encouraging and fostering a culture of self-hatred. Now it's not just self-hating what's happened in history, but it's now directing us further supporting self-hatred of their own bodies. There's no work for them to understand why don't they like themselves, and there's no support to help them love themselves.
There used to be support when it was considered a mental illness, and now the Canadian government removed it from being called a mental illness, because thinking yourself, like, I'm not the microphone, right? I can't be a microphone, so how can I legally identify as a microphone? If I really thought I was a microphone, I'm crazy, and I have to go see a doctor to fix my craziness. I don't know why it's accepted that what was once crazy, because it is crazy, is now being accepted as the new norm.
So we're talking about the demasculinization of men, and it seems that a lot of the gender dysphoria is coinciding with this topic. And, it just seems that we can't discuss one without discussing the other one. It's pretty alarming that we have so much in society now where there's so much confusion as to what being male is and what being female is.